Hey everyone, welcome to the show. And it's funny because, of course, I was about to say, welcome to my brand of impact. And actually, today, that's what I'm going to be talking about. What is your brand of impact and how does it serve you? How does it help the business? And how can you help other people find their brand of impact? I'll tell you a little story about why I do what I do. Now, a lot of people, especially when I was doing executive coaching, will come up to me and say, I need executive presence. I need to sound a certain way. I need to be more professional. And I've even had big companies, come up and say, would you do a session on personal style? Now, I'm not a stylist, but it always begs the question about, well, what is executive presence? What is being professional? And why do we teach these things, especially in the executive space? Why is personal branding becoming such a big thing? Now, one of the reasons why personal branding is so effective is because it is the thing that makes you stand out. Only you have your experience, only you have your values, only you have your brand of impact, as it were. And that is what people connect to, especially when in business. Now, in business, traditionally, what do? We have presentations, we have podcasts, we have videos, we have all these methods of human to human ways of having contact. And I know my buddy Carl Reeder always says it's not business to business, it's not B2C, it's not B2B, it is H2H, it's human to human. And that is true. It's always true. There's always a human interacting with another human. And for the data people in the room listening, it's also a case of whatever you do in your job, you are the conduit, the guide of whatever your profession is that you need to be trusted for. You are the person who gets to translate whatever complexities of your role is to your audience or to the people that need to trust you to do your job. So if you're an accountant, you are the business storyteller. You're telling the numbers story. Any data professional is doing the same thing. We've all, if you've seen there's a British comedy called The IT Crowd, and it's that classic thing, have you turned it on and off again? But they're taking you through a process, and they know so much about technology that you don't need to know, and they have to communicate that with value so that you trust them, so that you believe them, that they know what they're talking about. It's what we do. It is why that meeting wasn't an email. We joke, don't we? This could have been an email, but there's a reason why it isn't, and it's because we need humans to be in front of other humans to communicate things. Now, obviously, email, text-based communication, sending a PDF, brochures, whatever it is, very valuable ways of communicating what you do and who you are, and company brand as well. But it is you and the human side that will build relationships, that will tell people what you're like to work with, to tell people why you're trusted. And that is what my brand of impact is, because we are in a relationship economy, especially with technology becoming so vast. Obviously, AI is one of those things. We can now create deep fakes of people. We can create voices of people. I've had friends from the acting industry way back when, their voices are being recreated and sold on. So until we create policies that change that, and that is going to happen, we can create, there are social media influencers completely AI based. So the content and the video content and the pictures they've created an AI influencer. And again, though, what they've done is recreate a human. So it's not necessarily just an AI. It could have been anything. It's not a plant that's talking. It's a human. And so the more that this will happen, the more we've seen social media going on, the more actually we're craving an unpolished, real, raw version of things, because that is what's going to become very sought after. We want the reality of situations when we're surrounded by untruths and fakery. We want to see and I'm going to leave some errors in here. We want to have a level of perfection, a level of really good, effective showing up, but we also need to see the little idiosyncrasies and the little character flaws and the individuality of everything. And that's what I want you to think about, is how can you present yourself in a professional way and build those relationships when you're building your personal brand, but show who you are, because at the end of the day, that is what makes you distinctive, and that is how you will win in a relationship economy. That is why we have dinners and drinks and events and trips and away days. And in fact, one of the trends for 2024 that we're seeing is that more people are saying, yes, we need training for our company, as in bite-sized video, brilliant, it's very efficient, but more people are also going, no, we want in person, we want to really focus on having intensive experiences, and it is experiences that are valuable. And at the end of the day, that's really what your personal brand is about creating a really valuable experience so that people can make better decisions about working with you. So whether that is hiring people, whether that is giving you their money, if it is creating long-term client relationships, especially if you're creating long-term client relationships, it is all about the value you give and about how you communicate in advance what kind of person you're like to work with and what the experience of working with you is really like. So for instance, this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this on video. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, you'll be able to see this on YouTube, but equally you will be able to hear this and listen to this, because my strength is about speaking and showing up and being here. And that is where I win and I do well in my relationship building, as opposed to writing, which you won't see me do a lot of. I do have a LinkedIn newsletter, but it's not my strength. And actually, that's something I do for me to practice my skills and to become better and challenge myself to become better. So anyway, that is why it's really important, because if you are online or becoming a thought leader or actually actively pursuing this, your personal brand becomes more valuable to your company. You get bigger reach through your personal brand, through any personal posting than you will do through your company brand, because of that connection value. You will get higher input and responses. You will get better credibility if you are showing up as a representative of your brand, speaking on panels or doing public speaking, doing keynotes, doing podcast interviews, because it is about that connection value. And if you think about the people you work with, I would like you to think about why you made those decisions and what got you there. So these are all things to think about. So when you are looking at what your unique brand of impact is, so that you can develop your personal brand and really build the equity up in your company, because it's like a halo effect. If you've heard of halo bias, it is where there is a light shone around the things around you. And that's what we want to do with your personal brand, is you are creating such great equity in your personal brand that you not only are just so powerful for your company brand, and it shines a light all over it, and also on any missions that you undertake or any visions you have. So 3 things really you need to think about, and this is what I teach people to look at before you look at content, before you look at what you're about to start saying, before you're looking at how you position your personal brand as an expert. I want you to think about all of these things. So the first one is looking at your voice. And I don't mean the way that you speak, although it can include that, but it means, what are your strengths? What do you sound like? What is your personality? And I use DISC as a tool, but there's also brilliant ones. So start looking at using wealth dynamics as well, because it's great for salespeople, or looking at how you build relationships. So if we don't think of sales, we think about relationship building, because it's what style of person are you? I think I'm a creator, and I'm here creating. That's why I'm leaning into that strength. I'm also a high I on the DISC profile. So DISC is, you have dominance, influence, conscientiousness, and steadiness. I am an I, funnily enough, for influence and for being high spirited and energetic. And so I try and lean into that. So you need to lean into what your voice is and your strengths are and how people connect with you. Once you understand that, it also means that you will understand how you like to share information. So with DISC, it's all about preferences, what your preferences are to share information and share what you do, and share your ideas and your opinions. which is also your voice. It is all about that. So I want you to think about, how do I do that? Do I do it in an inspiring way? Do I do it in a really results driven way? Do I do it in a very process, we did A, B, C, D driven way? Or do you do it in a very accommodating, how can I support you? How can I help you? Loyal kind of way. And that says everything about how you like to receive information and send information. And the more that you learn about how you do that, the more you'll learn about your audience as well, and how they like to receive information. And it just really helps you build on that. The next thing is your voice, is what I've just said, actually, is your opinions. What do you care about? What do you not care about? What do you want to be known for? And if you have that, just write it down. Say, what do I want to be known for? What do I need to be known for? Is the other way to look at that. So depending on what your goal is, are you selling? Are you recruiting? Are you looking for investment? In which case, when people meet you, and then they will look you up online, and they will look in what we call the 3 pillars. They'll look online, they'll look for your professional credibility. Why do you do what you do? How do you contribute to your industry? And in-person relationships as well. What's the experience of you like? So they will look at you and they want to know, what do you want them to know about you? What do you want them to get a feel of? So I actually had a Zoom call earlier today, and someone said, oh, well, I get the feeling that you've got this big relationship with the kind of finance community. And I went, yeah, that's good. That's one of the things. And that you really talk about influence a lot, and you talk about how people show up and communicate. And I was like, brilliant. That's it. That's exactly it. And that's what you want people to be thinking of, is everything you put out there needs to be directed and focused. And especially as a professional, if people are buying into you and the experience of you, is what makes you different from everyone else when you line up. And I'm not talking about company branding, I'm talking about you as an individual. So if you imagine a lineup for, if you've seen The Usual Suspects, kind of like a criminal lineup up against the board with the lines, and you step forward when number 1 or number 5 is called. And it's a case of, usually everyone looks alike and looks vaguely similar, all kind of the same profile, brown hairs, blue eyes, or something like that. And you've got to think about what makes you stand out. And that is your experience. What is your experience of your work and the world? What do you know works and what doesn't? What are your opinions on your work? What's a bad way of doing things? What's a great way of doing things? What do you think works and doesn't work? What is bad practice and good practice? So voice those opinions as long as it falls in line with what you want to be known for. If you're a financial services advisor, for instance, or if you're in advertising or whatever it is, it's like, do you want to be known as someone who is really creative? Do you want to be known as someone who is fantastic with a certain type of client? Then talk about that, build up that conversation, and make sure anything that is online or any articles you contribute to all are centering around that. And make sure that when you're showing up as well in person, that you're talking about those topics. And that is what your voice is. So the next one is really about your vision. And so it's segueing in nicely from what your opinion is of what good practice is based on your experience, what your strengths are, what your skills are. That's what's making you stand out in that lineup. That's what's making you not be Kaiser Soze in The Usual Suspects. So the next element is, well, what's your vision? What's your vision for the future? What do you see as something that your industry, your job role, your clients, what do they need? What do you see for the future of work if you're employing and you're building an employer brand? What do you see is something? And the thing is, your vision is yours alone. And again, that helps you stand out. So what is it that you see? Maybe you've been in the thick of it for so long that you need to think, I haven't really had a chance to think about this. What is my vision for the future? What have I noticed as trends upcoming? And see, this is where you start positioning yourself as a thought leader, is what, given your experience, given your knowledge, given your position currently, do you see in the future happening as a trend? What are your magic ball predictions? What do you want to build and grow? Something I will talk a lot about is inclusivity and how we can represent that. So For instance, the ways I do that is that I will talk about, I will never teach someone to speak a certain way. I will never teach someone to present in a set way or using a set framework. I will always, always help someone find their way of doing things, because it is, for me, personal branding is about communicating to the world how you are helpful to them and how you are credible and how you can be trusted. So being inside and fitting in, that's how one way we do that. But being yourself when you do that. So owning your heritage, owning your culture, owning the way your brain works if you're neurodiverse and it's different, owning the way that you speak if it's different. As long as you are heard and it is clear and you are trusted and you can build relationships, then that is when we create a really diverse world and we create diverse thoughts as well in our business. So that's something that's my vision for the future, is that through allowing people to be themselves, then we can create diversity of thought and actually more innovation in business and growth in the world. So that is my personal vision. What is yours? Let me know. Tell me. The third and final one is your value. What value do you provide? So you've talked about a lot about your experience, what your voice is, what your strengths are, and that's what makes you stand out. You're talking about what your vision is for your future, so positioning yourself as a thought leader in your industry, and then from there you can think about, well, where should I be sharing this message? What stages should I be standing on? Which audiences should I be speaking to? Which partners should I align with in terms of your profession that will really give you the credibility, and what publications and that get you really well positioned and known as the go-to expert. And then of course it is, well, actually what value to provide. So really talk to people about what outcomes you provide and what you have done in the past, but also what you intend to do in the future, and create allies. Most importantly, I think people forget this a lot. They talk a lot about like posting on social media. Create allies, build your network, create something for yourself that actually is about your vision and your voice. So have that project that is about your value, your legacy even. For me, it's about GREENROOM and creating a space and connections that will hopefully have an impact far greater than me and just my clients. It will extend outwards and create this tidal wave effect from my vision. And that is what really creates a standout personal brand. And that is really what my brand of impact really is about. So that's where I want you to think about, what is your brand of impact? What is it? And where do you want to leave a legacy? What do you really believe in that will give your work meaning? And that will make you supremely attractive, because once you talk about that, all your content worries go away. You know what to talk about, you know what you should be saying, you know what you feel passionate about and energized about, and you have all this energy, and that is so attractive to especially people who believe the same way, because you don't need to attract everybody, you just need to attract your people, and that's it. So that is what my brand of impact really is, and that is how you create a standout brand. And if you want a worksheet on those three elements, just to ask you questions, to get you thinking about it, just send me a message. You've got my details on the podcast or here on wherever you're watching this or consuming this bit of content. Get in touch with me and just say, Alex, my brand of impact workbook, and we'll get that sent out to you. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone.